So our next speaker really needs no introduction. Dr. Robert Keith Wallace, the founding president and trustee of Maharishi University of Management in Fairfield, Iowa. He's co-dean of the College of Perfect Health there, professor and chairman, and has been since its inception, of the Department of Physiology and Health, author of 3 books. And I have to say about Keith that when Maharishi first inspired the revival of AyurVeda and its to roll out the program to introduce it in the US and the West, it was Keith whom he appointed as the Director General at that time. And this goes back to the early 1980s, and I had the great honor and really joy to work with him, under him, on his board during those early days when this revival of AyurVeda was first going on. So please welcome our dear Dr. Keith Wallace.
So I have to say that Dr. Stuart Rothenberg is a brilliant example of really this integration of modern medicine and ancient Vedic knowledge. What he did today was a perfect demonstration of the program that we are developing at Maharishi University of Management in terms of a master's program in Maharishi AyurVeda and Integrative Health. Dr. Rothenberg has given many of the lectures there, and I think it's very clear how the excellence that he provides in terms of this integration, which now is becoming easier and easier with all the new scientific findings in these different areas. It's an honor and a pleasure for me to speak about this new program. It really is a beautiful opportunity for people around the world to go deeply into what Maharishi felt was the future of health. And it really embodies that future. Maharishi, of course, starts with, Maharishi really brought out that essential to health was consciousness. And this restoring consciousness in Ayurveda is the primary means for achieving ideal health. And many, many people have talked about this in this conference. Of course, Dr. Hagelin really embodies this highest level of this integration of really describing that perfect health means being established in the unified field. When an individual is established in that unified field, then he acts in accord with all the laws of nature. Such a beautiful, such a profound concept. Again, we see this wonderful integration that Dr. Hagelin brought out between these very ancient, very profound concepts in every culture, and yet now we can see it in terms of modern science. And you really have to give all credit to Maharishi. The hundreds and hundreds of hours he spent with scientists, with Vaidya's, it's just impossible to reproduce that. That was an extraordinary experience that we all went through, which translated something which, you know, for thousands of years was incomprehensible, suddenly became very clear to everyone. And for the future of the world, that knowledge that Maharishi brought out will be there. And we're very grateful to Dr. Hagelin and other scientists for doing that. And now we really understand what it means that violation of natural law is ill health. It's a very simple concept. We also understand that consciousness being primary to health, that one has to be awake. We have to wake up from the waking state. This is sort of an essential constituency of perfect health. And as Dr. Morris brought out, really perfect health and enlightenment are synonymous. This is a very unique, completely revolutionary idea. And it's totally Maharishi's genius that brought this out, that the Vedas and Vedic literature are not really exclusive to any culture. We're so grateful to India. We're so thankful for this knowledge coming from India. But what Maharishi explained to us, really, this was knowledge for everyone. It wasn't bound to any culture, any religion. It's just a way of looking at the laws of nature. And that far from being stories or hymns or whatever we talk about the Vedic literature, they were really explanations. The best explanation is they were scientific examination of the laws of nature by the ancient rishis. Maharishi said, the Veda in its original script is just the whisper of the unified field to itself. This is an amazingly beautiful definition of Veda, which is, unique to Maharishi and his work with all the scientists. And when we think of the Vedic seers, and, it's so many different visions we have. But what Maharishi explained to us was they were Vedic scientists. They explored consciousness within their own mind. They used their nervous system as a tool to dive very deep within the laws of nature. And they were able to analyze the laws of nature from a subjective technology in the same way that scientists today analyze it from an objective technology. And it's really this ability to record these experiences, that is what the Veda is. It's a record. And we might say, well, it's like a scientific journal. I mean, if any of you tried to pick up a physics journal, it'd be impossible for you to read it. You just look at it and it'd be just gibberish. In the same way, you pick up the Veda and it's not really comprehensible unless you have the tool to examine it. And that tool is consciousness. That's the primary part of Maharishi AyurVeda. When we understand consciousness, we can understand the whole Veda and its value in life. And so that, again, is one of these amazing achievements that Maharishi did, to explain to us who the Vedic scientists were, what they did, and how valuable this knowledge was in a language that we could understand. And no one in the history had ever talked about higher states of consciousness in terms of neurophysiological refinement. The idea of the neurophysiology of enlightenment, that's totally Maharishi's invention. It's just an absolutely beautiful concept. We're stuck in this dilemma of waking state consciousness. We analyze everything from waking state consciousness. Of course we don't see the world the way we should see it, because we're locked into this very limited view of life. We need to expand our vision of consciousness. We need to go to higher states of consciousness, and suddenly everything works better. Our consciousness, our physiology, every part of it. So it's essential that this taste of consciousness be the first part of our experience into ideal health. And really, this is Maharishi's genius, again, that when he created the curriculum for this program, the beginning part of it is this taste of consciousness, this ability to experience pure consciousness, the unified field, in a very simple and natural way. And then from there, all the subtle aspects of the Veda are unfolded. And so Maharishi is very interesting. He wanted us to teach AyurVeda in terms of the current language. So we're teaching it, first of all, with the introduction to Maharishi AyurVeda and consciousness, but then now we go through each of the major organ systems of the body. And so this is a very traditional approach. Each of these different systems we know well from medical school or physiology, and it's not really done in other schools of Ayurveda that you would approach it first from a Western angle, and then what he did then is to then connect these to the different prakritis. So these 8 prakritis, so we start with the Prithvi, which is the solid systems of the body, our musculoskeletal systems, looking at this bones and muscles. Then we go to Jal, or the fluid systems, which correspond to the cardiovascular and renal systems. Then we go to Agni, or all our metabolic systems, so the gastrointestinal system. Then we go to Vayu, which corresponds to our respiratory system and all the gaseous systems in the body. Akash goes to the articular system, the joints, and if we want to go deeply, we can go into all the subtle spaces within the body. Then we move to Manas, or this mind quality, and there we go to the endocrine and reproductive system. And then we go to Budh, or the intellect, which corresponds to the immune system. And then we go to Ahamkar, or the ego quality, which corresponds to the nervous system. And so our whole curriculum is organized on this very profound understanding of all of nature in terms of these 8 prakritis, which then correspond to the different systems of the body. And we go through each of these, interestingly enough, in terms of disease. Now, I know we've been focusing in this whole conference, we should be talking about health, but yet in terms of a practitioner, they come to you with disease. So first of all, we get Maharishi Ayurveda, consciousness, all the basic understanding, how to create health, prevention, and then we start through, from a Western approach, going through the different diseases and what the protocols are for each of these diseases, what the physiology, pathology, assessment, management. And this allows us really to sink in with the modern system and the way normal doctors are trained. Ultimately, the goal of this is to come to that understanding that all we have to do is enliven the inner intelligence of the body, and that will naturally allow the body to heal itself. So, but we do approach it, as was said earlier, you know, sometimes the notion of Ayurveda is you come in with a headache or some digestive problem, and the end result is the doctor then sends the person out with a key to enlightenment. I mean, that's the glory of Ayurveda. You can start with something simple, and then it naturally leads to the full unfoldment. Maharishi always took an evidence-based approach and encouraged all this research, and that again is completely his achievement in life, that everything every scientist did was inspired by Maharishi. It never would have been there if he hadn't have really pushed in that direction. And everywhere he ran around the world, he talked about it that way. And of course, this huge body of research on transcendental meditation is, you know, been supported, $25 million grant support from the U.S. National Institutes of Health and other government agencies. So that's a lot of money that's gone to support research into consciousness, and it's resulted in a whole new understanding of meditation. I mean, interestingly, meditation is now enwrapped in the current paradigm. It's probably not the best place for it because meditation is understood as stress reduction instead of enlightenment, but still, it is incorporated. It's in the everyday language. Every few days you see an article on the value of meditation. Totally Maharishi's achievement. Many, many people came afterwards, but this is his work and his changing how we see health. And you heard earlier today from Dr. John Fagan on terms of this whole notion of changing the DNA, which is really epigenetics, changing the expression of the DNA molecule. And again, this is something Maharishi loved to talk about. DNA, the universe is the expression of Veda, the body is the expression of DNA. And this research, which we heard about earlier, has already been talked about, but this is personalized medicine. This is the way, the direction the world's going to go in. Everybody here in this room, you know, in 20 years, your DNA is going to be analyzed. Everything about your life is going to be predicted. No drug's going to be given to you unless it's known how you metabolize that drug. Everything is going to be on that level. And now we see, of course, meditation, Ayurveda changes DNA either through meditation or different herbs. And that's the way we'll understand it, that suddenly we'll know, okay, it's all right. Personalized medicine from a Western point of view is exactly what was going on for thousands of years in Ayurveda. Both these two have now met together to understand you have to understand the subtlest aspect of the individual. And as Nancy talked about earlier too, that lifestyle medicine, that's the whole new trend in modern medicine. So beautifully, Maharishi predicted all these and created these different directions. And we see it from every level in the physiology. We change consciousness, every level of the physiology changes, even the DNA. And we can look at this in terms of this beautiful expression of Ayurveda. I have regained memory, smriti labdha. This is this beautiful understanding that reaching enlightenment or perfect health is nothing other than remembering who we are. Such a simple but such a brilliant concept. And of course, we're so grateful that India brought all this Vedic knowledge, had all these wonderful scientists, and in our modern age, we're again fortunate that Maharishi inspired Dr. Tony Nader, our dear Maharaj, to really allow us to understand that our physiology is Veda. What a profound understanding. And this is the ultimate result of this master's program, is that every doctor learns that we can understand our physiology not just in terms of the medical terms, but in terms of Vedic terms. That we can use a Vedic terminology in order to understand imbalances, disruptions, how we've somehow lost the memory of who we are, and this has resulted in some imbalance, which turns out to be some aspect of the Veda which was supposed to go into a perfect sequence, now it's gone out of sequence. And this beautiful discovery of Dr. Nader has a very practical aspect. We can reset it by listening to the sounds of the Veda, by doing various practices from Ayurveda. They're all really to reset our physiology to that inner intelligence. So this supremely profound understanding of the physiology comes from India, and we're very grateful. And we're particularly grateful that this is part of our curriculum, this beautiful discovery of Maharaj, that really we are the universe, we are Ved. And I think back to all the years of being with Maharishi. I first met Maharishi in 1964, and I can't think of a day I was with Maharishi when he didn't have compassion for the health of the world. That his total direction in life was to remove suffering from the world and to bring enlightenment to everyone. This final quote I want to end with is from Maharishi, which is, "There is no reason today in our scientific age for anyone to remain unenlightened." Thank you very much.